Okay, so welcome to this live call about Elemental Eros V5. Very excited that today we're opening the doors for registration, and it's in its fifth iteration now, this journey. So very excited about this next turn of the spiral, this next deepening of this journey, because every spiral it gets deeper and the magic of it becomes more real and more alive and more visceral. So welcome. And yes, like I said, I don't really have anything planned for this call. It's really just going to be an interactive conversation about the journey. We've been doing it for now over 2.5 years. And the journey, this spiral one of the journey is really about the foundation, creating the foundation. So in this journey, this spiral one, what we do is we cultivate and map out what's called the feminine base map of the psyche. So the title of the journey is a primordial journey of deep feminine initiation through nature and body. So what that means is that we've been kind of given this version of woman by our culture that isn't very true to our organic and innate form. And so that I feel I've kind of created the mystery school based on my own journey, but also from witnessing many, 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 many women kind of reaching this existential crisis in their life where they're kind of like, this version of being a woman does not work for me. And there's kind of like this crumbling of and kind of outcry of what does it really mean to be a woman? So when women get to that point, this is kind of where the calling of the Dancing Serpent Mystery School can meet them. It's like a okay, we've got you. You can come here. This is like the door to the ancient temple kind of like creaks open, and it's like, okay, there's some deeper mystery about what it means to be woman, and here's a doorway, and it kind of creaks open, and women come and they find themselves with this really like ancient and primordial curiosity about that I feel is led very fundamentally from the soul, because the soul of each of us knows that something is amiss. And so when that calling and that kind of working and that kind of, oh yeah, what is it all about? What does it mean? Who am I? What am I here to do? How can I fully come into my fullness as a woman? Then the door is there. The door opens. And so maybe some of you are experiencing some of that. Maybe you find yourself here because there's something like an existential kind of like discomfort, but also like curiosity about all of the ways in which aspects of our feminine have not been fully given space. So that's kind of like the kind of undercurrent call. And then what that means is that, or if you find your way to the door of the Dancing Serpent Mystery School, the invitation is to embark on Spiral 1, which is just about to begin in March. And during that journey, what we do is we cultivate a feminine-based map of the psyche. And we do this by walking through the 4 directions. Now, the 4 directions are as ancient as time: the north, the south, the east, and the west. And these are directions that are inherently part of nature's law. So in this crisis point, or this stirring point, or this questioning point, or it's kind of part of kind of like the deep structure of our mythic psyche is that we turn towards the kind of ancient and primordial wisdom that is available to us when we know how to attune. So we turn towards these four directions, these ancient, these four directions that without these directions we wouldn't, you know, they're the orientation of our life, of our cosmos even. And we call to those energies and welcome them back. And we welcome them back through different practices and different techniques and different modalities that allow us to embrace like an act, to go through what's like an activation. So we awaken, we turn towards these four directions and we awaken something that's already in us, but is perhaps dormant. And then once we awaken them, we go through the journey of really making them our own. So we amplify them, we activate, we open it, we like keep opening it, and then we amplify it, and then we become embodied in these frequencies of the feminine, based on the feminine base map of the psyche, that allow us to fully embrace the fullness of our feminine essence. So I said a lot in those 10 minutes. So I'm just going to pause for a minute and see if there's any questions based on what I've just said.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be confident and comfortable in my woman. And I think one of the gifts that women have is the ability to give life. But then we have to receive the spark from the male or the divine male. And I find that much of a woman's quest is also finding the relationship with the divine male.
Mm-hmm.
Then, could you say something about that? Because you've talked a lot about soul, but very little about spirit, and how you navigate through those two fields of dimensions.
Yeah, for sure. So the feminine journey is really a journey of coming into psyche. So in the myth of Psyche and Eros, Psyche is the feminine soul. And the feminine, in order to be able to fully receive the masculine, the kiss of spirit of Eros, she needs to descend all the way down into the underworld. She descends and receives the gift from Persephone, which she brings back for Aphrodite, and then is kissed by Eros on the way back.
So again, Persephone, when she had the pomegranate seed.
Yeah, that's so. In the myth of Psyche and Eros, Psyche is told by Aphrodite to go to the underworld to retrieve something from the underworld that she needs. And so in this quest, she descends and she meets Persephone, and Persephone gives her the box, the ancient timeless box that Aphrodite has called for, and she goes up and to give this back to Aphrodite. So anyway, the nuances of the story aren't really that important, but really what's important here is that in order for a woman to receive the kiss of God, to receive the kiss of the divine masculine, to receive the kiss of Eros, to be in that inner union, because really a lot of women can spend a lot of time focusing on relationships and putting a lot of energy into relationships. And while that is fundamentally a very beautiful and wholesome aspect of our eros, of our erotic selves, it's not the only aspect of our erotic selves. It's one of the pieces of our erotic selves. So I think one of the distortions of the feminine is that we think that in order to experience love and in order to experience eros, we need to be in relationship, and that's a total distortion of the relationship to our eros. So everything that we do at the mystery school in Elemental Eros is cultivating this erotic self that is in relationship to self, in relationship to other, in relationship to earth, and then in the relationship to the great mystery. So these 4 layers allow us to conjure what I call the deepest love affair we can conjure in this lifetime. And so a woman's journey, a woman's initiation, is to descend all the way down into the underworld, to become a vessel, to become like the chalice, to forge her vessel, to be able to have been stripped of kind of like the egoic defenses and conditioning around being a woman, to come into her soul, to embody her soul, to become the vessel. And so she's emanating on those 4 levels. And then she can become she becomes the vessel for spirit. So she becomes a vessel for the divine masculine. She becomes the vessel for God, for spirit, for that kiss of Eros. And then she gets to live that in her life, whether she's in relationship or not in relationship, she's in that union of self. So that's essentially the work that we're doing at Elemental Eros. And the spiral 1 is the preparation, is the foundation, and then spiral 2 is the descent into the underworld. And then spiral 3 is the embodiment of your feminine enchantment and magic and mystery. And so that's the arc, and that's how we are in relationship with that. One of the things that often happens that in sessions with women is continuously, and I want to write about this, is that there's an image that emerges quite a lot, and it's an image of a woman who's in a cage. Like women come with this imagery of, there's a part of me that's in a cage. And it's really interesting because it's an image that repeats itself time and time and time again. And what I've come to see and feel is that image is kind of archetypal of what has happened to this erotic part of ourself, erotic self, our wildness, is that it's caged. And as a result, we live in this kind of self-imposed, it's now self-imposed because our culture, luckily for us in the West, our culture, there's no restriction on our expression, or, you know, there are obviously social norms and social inhibitions and all of those things, but there's generally much more of a freeing and a permission for us women, I think, more than we actually give ourselves permission. So often that caging, that prison, is often our own internal self-imposed prison. And there's this sense of this almost kind of like longing and desperation to really unlock, to come out of that cage. And I feel so deeply supportive of that. And obviously it's more than supportive, like that's totally the premise of the mystery school, is to unlock that cage. Because what is in that space is often the wild, primordial, ancient, magical essence of woman that has been kind of shunned and demonized and repressed and suppressed. And so really the journeys at the Dancing Serpent are really just coming into right relationship with this energy and integrating it into our beings, so that we can essentially emanate our magic, our love, our creational beauty, our creational power, and not just do it for ourselves, but also do it so that we can really rewire and recreate a new system and a new culture. And I really believe that, you know, when women fully come into the embodiment of their feminine, that we can shift so much just by being ourselves, just by the way we respond, just by the way that we interact, just by the way that we are in our relationships with our children, with our family. And then also use that creational force in a way to be delivering our creativity in a way that comes from this deep well, this real deep well of the feminine intelligence, because it's an intelligence. So again, I said a lot, so I'm going to pause and just see if there's any questions.
Just some kind of an alignment with the bigger arc. So there's this first spiral and then the second spiral.
Yeah.
And I might have missed what came after that. Is that the bigger arc, or?
So there's 3 spirals. So there's spiral 1, which is 5 months online, and then we meet for a retreat in Crete, which is optional, but highly recommended, because we kind of come together on the land and we really bring it into body, and it's very powerful. So the 5 months online is, and then the retreat is spiral 1, and then spiral 2, we go through the process of a vision quest. And then spiral 3, that it's the embodiment. So once we've descended down into the underworld and met there with our soul, the task then is to bring it back into our lives, our way, our village, our culture. And so we do that by gathering the threads that we've been tending in the underworld, and then giving them form, because the journey to the underworld can be quite mythical and mystical, and it's quite, like otherworldly, and we get shaped in a way that is really a really deep conversation with the unseen mysteries. And then once we've had that conversation with the unseen mysteries, the task is then to make the mystery seen. And so that's when it becomes the embodiment, because we're kind of becoming essentially the voice of earth, the voice of our soul, and then that being a deep service to the world, to be able to stand and embody the essence of your feminine, that is the way the earth has spoken to you through your poetry, through this deep mythical journey. So in essence, that's the larger, bigger picture. But this initial invitation is to just begin with spiral 1. And even if you just embark on spiral 1, there's material in there that could really last a lifetime in terms of where it can take you. But just so you know, generally the arc there. So I hope that answered your question.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to this idea of the primordial blueprint of women.
Right. Okay. Great question. So, yeah, it's such a great question, because it's a question and a reality that I am with every day. And it's kind of like, I kind of see this when we embrace this primordial blueprint of woman, it's kind of like stepping out of the matrix. It's kind of like taking the red pill. And it's a complete paradigm shift, because it's like in our culture, in the matrix of our culture, we're predominantly functioning in a very white supremacist, masculine, male, distorted mentality and values and conditioning. And this anything that isn't in that frame gets marginalized, gets exiled to the fringes. So be it the feminine, be it people of color, indigenous cultures, the gay community, all of these kind of other expressions that don't fit into that box get marginalized and they get shunned. So at the Dancing Serpent, we're really interested in bringing back this particular nuance of the ecosystem, which is the feminine, which is the way that the consciousness of the feminine has been exiled and repressed and suppressed. And so this original primordial blueprint, it's like the way in, like, woman's body is so interconnected to Earth's body. Like, we bleed with the tides, we bleed with the moon, we even just that in itself, the way that our bodies receive life and birth life and are in tune with all of these cycles, it's like that intelligence is primordial. That intelligence is the origin of life itself. And so we as women in our culture have kind of adopted ourselves to fit into a culture and adopted masculine values, but we've divorced ourselves from this innate principle of the feminine that is just who we are. And so to turn to be able to relinquish those cloaks of that conditioning and turn towards this primordial intelligence which lives in our body, just by attuning to our body, and also by coming into relationship with the earth, we restore what it means to be in essence truly feminine. And so what does it mean in essence to be truly feminine? It means to reclaim, to restore that love, that essence of eros, that essence of amor, that essence of love that essence of the erotic that is part of the natural world. You look into the natural world and everything is making love with everything else. Everything is a manifestation of love in the natural world. And we've just been divorced from that because we've been put into a box that is disconnected from that way of being. So we have to, part the journey that happens on spiral 1 is when we start to turn towards the natural world and welcome those energies back. We reattune our systems, our psyches, our bodies, our systems, our consciousness to the frequency of love, which is the frequency of the feminine, which is the frequency of the natural world. And once we do that, we become free to really become embodied in what it means to be a woman. And all of that, those kind of like strangleholds or like chains or the repression just begin to fall away, because we see that our love is actually, it's rooted in something so much bigger. It's transpersonal. It's not just a personal affair, it's a transpersonal affair. And so and it's like that holy sacred dance of like, how do we come into relationship with that, with love, this transpersonal love affair in a human body, and make it very, at the same time, very, very personal in how we stand up in the world, how we move in the world, how we express, how we channel our creativity, what kind of relationships we're cultivating, and the magic that we're pouring into all of those areas of our lives. So it becomes like a welcome, like a remembrance. The primordial blueprint of woman is a remembrance of what we already are but have lost. And so we turn towards that which is already inside of us. Like, I'm simply just a guide on this journey, that I guide into these areas, and I do things that allow you to activate what's already in you. It's already in you. And the framework and the map and the context allows for this unfolding of what's already inside. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other questions?
I just want to say thank you. I thought it was really beautiful what you said about everything in the manifested world is through love.
Yeah. Yeah.
It needs to be shouted out.
Exactly. Like, it needs to be shouted out because it's hidden, and we as women hide our voice and our expression and that essence and our love. We hide our love because it's been shamed, and we've been shamed, and there's so much wounding around childhood, around and not being loved, and all of these things. There's so much conditioning that has us hiding, and really it's like, this is what the world is desperately longing for and needing. And it's actually like fundamental that we unleash what we carry on the inside in order to restore the balance of our culture and our world. Because if we don't, we make up half the population. So imagine all women just completely free in their love. What we would do. What would we do? Like, what would be the world that we would create if we were to, this is what I mean about the cage, uncage ourselves and let our love shine through, come through, be voiced as an expression, because our love it's personal to us, but it's the way, it's also a transpersonal affair. So it's how the mystery wants us to be. And so this is the kind of premise of the journey, is that we go through this journey of creating the foundation within ourselves, and then going to that depth, to that underworld depth, and then coming back as this expression of earth, of love, of magic, of mystery, of the feminine. And that's a very powerful, that's a return to our power as women. And it's deeply erotic. It's a deeply erotic journey to be in that remembrance. And it's deeply fulfilling and deeply meaningful. So the love that we are isn't dependent on being in relationship, not dissing relationship in any way. It's a beautiful, beautiful practice of alchemy, being in relationship. And it's also one area in which we get to be and express in our love, because there are all of these other areas that aren't given that much credit for, or aren't talked about or aren't acknowledged as much, especially within our mainstream. But there are all of these other ways in which we love, because we are love. So it's really about becoming that source, and then like allowing that source to become our lives in everything that we do. Okay, any other questions or any comments or anything anybody wants to say? Thank you for saying that, sparking that seed.
I would love to hear more about the nature element and how that works in the course. Like, obviously it's an online format, but there's also nature-based practice. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So yeah, it's through nature and body, this journey. So with the 4 directions, with each direction, you'll be invited to embark on a nature wander or invitation, where you'll be taking what is activated within you out into the wild, out into your conversation with the earth, and then it becomes a weaving. It's like the body is the inner temple and the earth is the outer temple. So it becomes a weaving of your inner and your outer temple. And then you start, it's kind of like we have to open our consciousness, open our body, embodied consciousness and like mind consciousness to the way in which the mystery speaks to us. And the mystery speaks to us in the wild world, and the mystery speaks to us in image and metaphor and rhyme and song and poetry. And so as this comes from our soul, we also take this into conversation with the soul of the world, with the wild world. And then it becomes this intimate love affair with the mystery, with the mystery of the wild world. So through each activation of each direction, which happens here, happens on the inside, the invitation is then to go outside, to take it into the wild. And then it's like that opens us to something much greater, and also allows the wild world to inform us, to, you know, it's like this weaving, this reciprocal conversation that happens. So does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah. I also have, I guess, a slightly more practical element to that, in terms of like, how does that work if your access to nature is limited?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, nature's everywhere. So nature's in the city, and nature is the city. You know, we've, you know, it's beautiful. One of my teachers that I had when I was living in Barcelona, I lived in Barcelona for 3 years, so very city. She's like, I speak to the concrete, you know, she's like, I speak to the lampposts. So, you know, obviously, ideally, it's beautiful if you have access to, you know, woodland, and, but even if it's just a pocket in your garden or even on the balcony, you can really, you can create ceremony there. You can create ritual there and connection there. And so it's really just about finding the ways and the pockets and the spaces, like the beauty of doing it online, because some of the programs that I've run before, you know, it's been retreat center based. So people come from everywhere and then they gather on a piece of land for 5 days and then they go back to their homes. But the beauty of this whole online and lockdown is that people have been connecting with the nature of their own homes. So it's not like you have to go somewhere to have this magical mystery experience. You can actually have this magical mystery experience in your everyday, in your backyard. So that's been the beauty of all of this, is that really, you know, even in the park next to you, you know, wherever you can find, so, like it's like a portal where you can have a conversation. You can make that your conversation. You can make that your space. So it's very, very translatable. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else have a question? It's very exciting. It's always exciting to begin a journey again. And yeah, that just the deep, like, we're coming to the end of this, of version 4 right now, and it's a 5-month crucible. So, you know, the women have been journeying for 4 months now. We've got maybe 1 more session left, and it's so beautiful just to see the transformation that happens. And it's very, like, the sessions are very spaced out, so you get 2 weeks for each module, to work with the material, to you know, to embrace and work with and take out onto the land. So it's very spacious, and so it feels just like this very like, I used to call this the snake shedding her skin spiral also. Not, I didn't used to say it formally because it doesn't roll off the tongue that well, but just in terms of the description, because it's just very like a gentle shedding of your skin, like over these 4 or 5 months. And it's very just like, you know, the feminine, the way that the spiral happens, it's not like this kind of like, I mean, it can be quite like, you know, you get moments of like revelation, and it can be quite like, but it's very almost like, oh, okay, let go of that and embrace that, and let go of that and embrace that. And it's just this like fine-tuning adjustment of just slowly coming into this place of knowing yourself and embracing yourself as this woman that you've perhaps maybe always longed to be and know, and be able to, you know, to express yourself in that way. So a lot of what we do is really just about giving space and welcoming. Well, very organically and naturally on this journey, what happens is that women find the deep acceptance of their wild, erotic self, that allows for that sense of freedom and connection and liberation and power and magic, that perhaps is a deep longing. So I'm saying a lot, so I just want to give a pause, see if there's anybody else who wants to say anything.
Hi.
Hi.
No, I like feel so much power in the information that you're sharing. And for me, the last 2 years have been, well, one of the many things that like this whole like life experience has brought me is definitely each day connecting more and more to my feminine, but especially just having a lot of like acceptance of my feminine, because I think that's something that, as you said, we have been taught to feel ashamed, no, of who we are.
Mm.
And the more and more I tap into that femininity and I tap into those powers, I feel so much power within myself, and I feel so much strength. And like on the one side, it's like, wow, like if I dive into this experience, I can't even imagine how much, like how many gifts it would bring to me.
Yeah.
And I have also like mostly this question that, as you know, like I've been like mostly following Bill Plotkin's like, yeah, the animus path, and I know it's very much yours too. And I've been doing this for the last 2-3 years, and I would like to understand like what it's like, a very similar focus, and I feel that it is, and I know that yours is more focused on femininity, but could you explain to me in a way, um, what's the difference, you know, what would be like the main differences of doing of going into this, the first spiral?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of overlap, because obviously Bill's teaching is one of my lineages. So I come from, you know, I am a guide for the Animus Valley Institute. And so that's one of the lineages that I've apprenticed to for 7 years. And then there's also the lineage of the tantric lineage of the deep feminine that I've also apprenticed to, and also in experimental theatre. So those are the 3 lineages that I bring, which make up the Dancing Serpent. So whereas Bill, the work of the Animus is very much part of this journey, I'm also bringing the flavors of the deep feminine initiation, which is more feminine based, and also the embodiment of soul through the theatre practices. So it's there's similarities, and there's this uniqueness that I also, just at the moment, I'm only working with women. So whereas Bill, it's like this place of soul that we are innately, inevitably tapping into on this journey, is also the place where our feminine eros is. So it's kind of like there's a similarity of eros and soul, and sometimes there's, you know, the feminine works with energy, and I would say one of the main differences is working with the energetic embodiment and of soul, and that's the similarity, is that we're going to this place of soul, and we're in the dancing with the Dancing Serpent, we're working with that becoming insouled in the energetics of our feminine eros, of our feminine love. So there's this the soul piece, and then there's the eros and love piece, which is different from what Animus is offering. So I hope that clarifies. Does that clarify?
Yes, yes, it does very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But and that, you know, blessing, you know, so many infinite blessings for everything that I've received from Animus and, you know, the other two lineages as well, and the unique way that they come together. So, you know, really deeply honoring all of those teachings that make up this similar but also unique in its frequency, I guess, what we're up to at Dancing Serpent. Anything we need to say, Esmeralda? Esmeralda, by the way, is my wonderful, amazing assistant that you all get emails from time to time. Without her, a lot of this wouldn't be happening. So deep gratitude to you. And yeah, anything we need to mention or say?
I would just maybe say what the process is if someone is wanting, like, curious about stepping further into this journey with you, like what comes next.
Yeah, if you are interested, then please just schedule a call with me. It's a free call, it's 30 minutes, and we'll just explore. I mean, I've given quite a lot of information here, but you can bring particular questions, practical questions, any other questions, and we just make sure that the journey is right for you at this time. And that's all you really need to do. That's really like the next step. And then once, you know, we both feel that it's an aligned step, then we just get you signed up, and we begin. Do we begin on the 10th of March? Is that right? Is that the opening ceremony?
Yes, the opening ceremony is on the 10th of March, and then the first session is on the 17th.
Come and have a chat if you're interested. I would love to have a tea with you. So yeah. Oh, so I guess I should say, you know, you've got the sessions, you've got the modules, and then part of the journey also is the deep feminine meditation dance. So that's every week you get to come to the temple space, and it's really like what we unearth in the teachings and in the modules, to then bring it into the dance really brings it alive, really brings it into body. So that combination of this journey really really allows for you to come into this kind of feminine gnosis, feminine intelligence and embodiment. So please know that it, like the package, the journey is really like curated for that, for not for just an overlaying of experience of knowledge, but for you to come into embodied experience, embodied you know, like an embodied consciousness around all of this. So it's very alchemical and very transformational, everything that we do. Okay, any more questions?
Do you have the schedule for that already set up, Pete?
For the, yeah, we do. We have that on the Elemental Eros page. So we will have each module, there's a live call. So you get the material delivered, there's a live call, which is all on the website. And then you get the dance class every week. So every 2 weeks you get a live call, and then the dance every week. And then you get the option of coming to the retreat in Crete, but that's all on the Elemental Eros page. Okay, any other questions? I mean, there's so much that could be said, and it's infinite what's in this journey, and really maybe just letting the resonance of what has been spoken be with you, and then and yeah, just trust in, maybe asking your dreams also if there's any stirring from the dream world about being on this journey. That's also a good way to tune in. So it's been a pleasure. It's been great to be here and talk about it. And please just reach out if you have any questions. Really happy to answer those. and I look forward to having tea with you. So go well, my darlings. Yeah, see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.